Happy Hanukkah, everybody. I want everybody to know first and foremost, Rob has a menorah, or if he doesn't, he lied to me. But after that Washington against Pittsburgh upset that I handed him on a random Wednesday or on a random Tuesday, he vowed to get a menorah. So I just want to let everybody know. Rob is
No,
celebrating.
I definitely have a menorah. I have all the candles and the dreidel and everything. I've been dating Jewish girls since I grew up in outside of Chicago, since about 14 years old. So I definitely have that stuff.
Attaboy. I love it. So, what we're going to talk about this week, we're going to talk about team records in the NFL and what we have to look forward to. I've talked about this going 5 weeks, but a lot of it is starting to play out. So, I want to talk about that. We're going to talk about some college traps this week. We're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the North Carolina and Miami game by popular demand, and then I got a couple examples of how to play it and when to pump the brakes. We talked about that either last week or the week before, but there's some real life examples that happened this week that I want to make sure I bring up because I think it'll help everybody's strategy and approach. And then I want to explain myself on the Dallas pick and on the Washington pick. Both upsets, one won, one didn't, but I feel like I owe everybody an explanation as to why, and we're going to go there. So before we go anywhere else, Rob, is there anything you want to add?
No, that's it. We're good.
All right. So let's hit team records, and this will roll us into the Pittsburgh Washington game. But weeks ago, we laid it out, and we were talking about team records and where they finish. And a phenomenal season for an NFL team is 14-2. We don't see 15-1 very often, 16-0. I've only seen it once in my lifetime, and I'm guessing everybody on this call has probably only lived that long. So unless you were alive in 1972, you've only seen 16-0 once in an NFL season. So that being said, we have two teams right now that are 11-1 with 4 games to go, which means are they going to be 14-2? If they are, they got another loss coming out of the next 4. If they're going to be 13-3, which still probably puts you first or second in the conference, where are those losses coming? So to go 13-3, we're looking at KC and Pittsburgh, each one of them with 2 losses coming on the schedule ahead. If they went 12-4, that's 3 losses coming. So I can't determine if I like 13-3 or 12-4, but I think both teams have 2 losses coming. So when we look at KC, what's ahead is Miami, New Orleans, Atlanta, and the Chargers. All 4 of them are very scary games for the Chiefs. And I say that because the last game of the year is against the Chargers, and it's unknown if they're even going to need to play that game. I don't think Andy Reid's that kind of coach, but you look at these next 4 games, the Chiefs will be favorites in every single one of them. If you look at the game that they're going into this weekend against Miami, the spread opened at 7.5, and the spread I think is down to 7, depending on where you find it. If you find 7.5, you're probably getting a very lopsided odds on Miami because a lot of people were taking Miami, and now that it's at 7, we're looking at more of a -110, -115 situation. But then the Chiefs go to New Orleans, and they get Atlanta, and Atlanta is not a joke. Atlanta hung in there with New Orleans. They can score points, and really with the Chiefs, I'm not a investor in the Chiefs. I am a fan, but at the same time, the Chiefs have not demonstrated to any of us that they're willing to cover a 10-point spread or a 7.5-point spread. Miami does not turn the ball over, and Tua has yet to throw an interception, and they got a crazy defense that can do odd things on special teams. So this weekend's a scary one for the Chiefs. New Orleans, I don't know what that spread's going to look like, but I'm guessing it's going to be low, and I'm guessing it's going to be the Chiefs, depending on what happens this weekend. And then the Chargers is the last game of the season. So the Chiefs have 2 losses coming. So as you're looking at your picks for the week, whether you play mine or you form your own, just think about that. If you were to take money line against the Chiefs for the next 3 weeks and you hit 2 of them, which they're going to lose twice, if you hit 2 of them, it's probably going to pay you more than enough to offset the loss. I'm not recommending going in for a full wager. I would say a quarter unit on them and just watch it happen and have that be the cherry to your week. Same thing with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's got Buffalo, Cincinnati, Indy, and Cleveland. Pittsburgh's got 3 losses coming. Pittsburgh has 3 losses coming, and I don't know if it's going to be against. I don't know if one of them is going to be Cincinnati or one of them is going to be Indy. That's the one I can't determine. But Pittsburgh's losing this week, and they're also going to lose against Cleveland in the last game of the year because I think Pittsburgh won't be fighting for seed, and Cleveland will, especially with the timeline of how that lays out. But those top two teams, again, I will be amazed if they go 4-0 in the last 4 games and end up finishing 15-1. It just doesn't happen in the NFL. Did somebody just jump in?
I just had a question. What you're talking about?
So, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the same thing you're talking about, and I understand exactly what you're talking about. Both teams, for a press of 15-1 or a possible 14-2. Now, with the same situation, they say they lose the next game. They're already looking at 14-2, which is the same thing that the Saints are looking at right now.
Yeah.
So the Saints fall to that same hat of what you're talking about right now.
So the NFC, I look at a little bit different. That's the AFC. I mean, right behind KC and Pittsburgh, we're looking at Buffalo at 9-3. They got Pittsburgh 4. So I highly doubt. I think that they're going to do it, and at least they're going to win 2 out of the next 4. But it's a different situation in the NFC. The NFC, there's New Orleans, and then there's everybody else. You have New Orleans at 10-2. They got Philly, KC, Minnesota, Carolina. Those are not guaranteed games either. Who knows what to expect out of Philadelphia this weekend with Hurts starting at quarterback. He came in and that team just was energized. And so, and there's no tape on him other than if you go back to Alabama, and that means nothing. Or if you go back to Oklahoma, because at that point you're looking at all first round draft picks that they're playing with. I think that Green Bay and the Rams are a little bit more interesting because they're right behind New Orleans. But I don't feel as strongly about the NFC in what's going to happen in the next few games. I'm just pointing out that with KC and Pittsburgh, we know they have losses coming. New Orleans, they could win the next 4 and go 14-2. That wouldn't surprise me. I don't see any guaranteed record out of them, but I do see that out of KC and Pittsburgh. So I would encourage everybody to look at the money line on the dogs and just put a small wager there and cash in a couple times, regardless of who it's up against. We good there? Is that Jesse?
Yeah. That was. Right. Hey, so a question though. Why is it like that? So, for instance, is it because coaches are kind of backing off and they don't really care about the record? I mean, there's no real reason that it should do that.
You're right. There is no real reason, and I can't really explain it, but this is my way of studying the chart. And, every day in the stock market, we look at charts, we look for our candles, we look for our support and our resistance, and we look at all those things. And I'm just saying 15-1 is a major point of resistance. 14-2 usually is as well. So it's smart to buy some puts here and look at the downside and where that's going to go. And there's money to be made out of it. If KC were to lose to Atlanta, KC's probably going to go into that game against Atlanta a 9.5 point favorite. I'm guessing between 8 and 9.5. And Atlanta on the money line is probably going to be plus 450. I'm not saying that's the game they lose, but plus 450, if you win that pays for your other 3 losses. Actually, that makes you a winner. If you were to put $1, that returns $450. Now you put $1 on the other 2, you can't lose. You're already up $1.50. So I know we're not dealing with those dollar amounts, but I'm just saying there's value there. There's the Pittsburgh and KC are not going to be a part of my point spread picks for the rest of the season, just because I think that they're dangerous. So Rob, to answer what you're saying, I don't think it's coaches backing off. I'm just going simply off of stats and history and looking at the opponents ahead and numbers and who we can and can't trust in these situations. So I'm going to get into the Dallas and Washington. So I didn't pick Washington. Here's the thing. I hope everybody knows I'm not just hoarding some whale of a pick and refusing to give it to everybody. That's not at all what I was trying to do. It's a risky pick to pick a money line on an underdog at a full wager. And I didn't do it to be contrarian. I did it because when I look at Washington, I see 3 high round draft picks on their defensive line. I see Bama, possibly the best Ohio State has ever had. They were averaging 2 takeaways in the last 3 games. They're holding teams to pretty much under 70 yards in rushing. Washington's one of the best defenses in football. And when I watched that Pittsburgh-Baltimore game, all I saw was drop passes out of Pittsburgh, and Baltimore was in it. If they would have just played a little bit more offense, Baltimore had an off game. So I think Baltimore could have beat them. They just needed a couple more things to go their way, and they need to execute better. So when I look at Washington, and you're going to see I'm playing Washington this week. I like Washington and the points, and I like Washington on the money line this week. I see a fantastic defense. And with Alex Smith at quarterback, they're not going to light up the sky with points. But what they are going to do is they're going to give their team will have a sense of confidence in the fact that they're not going to give the team extra chances. Alex Smith won't win the game, but he's not going to lose the game for them. So that's why I went with Washington. That's just been a long time coming. And they demonstrated against Dallas that they can handle business when they need to. So the Dallas game, I would take that bet. I would invest there 10 out of 10 times. We missed it, and I still would do it again tomorrow. You're looking at a team that got humiliated on Thanksgiving. Then they get 16 days off. They have a far better roster, and they are getting 9.5 points. 9.5 points, that's immediately a red flag. I look at every single game that's more than 7 or 7.5. And 9.5 points when you got the better roster. And the coach, it's a coin flip, but you're coming off of a 16-day rest. And, as much as the world wants to look at Dallas and think that, oh, well, they got Andy Dalton. Well, this dude was a starting quarterback for Cincinnati, and a pretty successful one at that, at a very difficult situation in Cincinnati. So I would have taken that Dallas bet all day, every day. I didn't roll into that thinking, well, I picked Washington. They got that. So let me see if I can do it again and just be this cocky contrarian. That's not at all why I did it. I had reasoning behind it. And again, Washington, I really like them in that spot. I like them in this spot this week coming up too. So that's my explanation / apology. Sorry, not sorry for this Dallas Washington thing that happened this week. Rob, you good there? You got something? Did we lose Rob?
No, I'm here. I actually like that game.
Oh, good. Well, I'm sure you did. You did well. So, all right. Well, let's talk about the pump and the brakes, because we've talked about pumping the brakes. So I'm gonna go the USC game first, and then I'm just gonna laugh a little bit about the brake pump in the Alabama game. But USC going into the game 11, and the spread was 11, and the first half over for USC was 14.5. It was quiet for a minute, and then they just started scoring. They scored 2 touchdowns in like 8 minutes of the first half. When they scored the first touchdown that early, the team over goes to 16.5. We talked about this last week. That's 2 scores. That's not that third score. So it's favorable to us. The third score, if it was 17.5, I'd have walked away. Well, took the 16.5, they turned around and scored again. Now it's 14. I like their chances again. So now I take the 20.5 because, again, that's 2 scores. That's not that third score. Well, now it's 28. Now they're up by 21 in the first quarter, and there's still time to go in the first quarter. Well, now here comes 31.5. Of course I'm on it, because I've already won 2. I've actually already won 3, the 14.5, the 16.5, and the 20.5. So at this point, why not take the 31.5 for the same size wager? The worst case scenario is I go 2-1. Well, that one hits. Well, guess what? Now the first half ends, and now the number is overinflated. They think that this is going to happen in the second half. And then the play was Washington plus 32.5 or 34.5, whatever it was, and under 75.5 for the game. The 75.5 for the game, the original spread to that game, or the original over-under to that game, I believe was 60 or 61. So just basic common sense, 75.5 is not going to happen. So immediately you jump to the other side, and I jumped to Washington because of the way that USC scored these points. They ended up with the short field twice and turnovers, and their offense never really had a chance to go against Washington State's defense. So at that point, you jump on the other side. No loyalty at all. And at that point, I could care less about my pregame 11 investment. I'm just trying to find another couple winners. So you pump the brakes. You know the game is going to slow down a little bit, and that's how you play it. There's no need to be loyal. The loyalty is to your bank account, which is common sense telling you that they're not going to score another 75 points. I think they went in at the half with 35 points or 28 points, something like that. I mean, they only scored a field goal in the second half. So it ended up being very profitable. The other one was Bama. Bama was completely running away with the game. And when they scored, they scored that last touchdown in the first half, and there was still time to go. It immediately went up to 67.5 points. And then I jumped on that 67.5 points under, because most of the world is thinking, well, they're just going to keep it going. Well, it just doesn't work that way. I mean, Bama's kind of scary because they've hung 63 twice this year, but just some common sense there. When was the last time you actually watched a football game and saw a team hang 67.5 points? There's some college basketball games where teams don't hang 67.5 points. So at that point, common sense kicks in, and you just know that it's going to slow down. And why on earth would Bama have any motivation to continue to hang points? The game's already over. Why get somebody hurt? And then it quickly went down to 65. And even there, when was the last time you saw a team 65 points? If this was Oregon of 2015, all day, every day, I'll take Oregon and have them cover 75 points. That's just who they are. But that's how you follow the spreads. You ride it, and then pump the brakes when it gets absurd, and you know it's not going to go there. Rob?
I'm with you, man.
Anybody else? All right, let's go UNC Miami. Andrew asked me about this game, and I'll tell you, I've never spent more time on a game that I'm walking away from. But here's where I fall on Miami and UNC. I've made money on both teams this year. So that alone, I can see value on both sides. But if you were to take Miami's performances and just if you were to take North Carolina's past performances and hang on, I'm struggling to read my own notes. Take North Carolina's last few games, and they can put points on the board. It's their defense I don't necessarily trust. They haven't really faced a quarterback like D'Eriq King before. They've only faced two quarterbacks that are truly mobile. And both times they've pretty much lost. They played against Notre Dame's quarterback, hung a lot of running yards on them. And they played against, I think it was NC State. Their quarterback ran around a little bit, but they struggle with that kind of quarterback. They had a quarterback run for 48 yards, 107 yards, and they both lost those games. D'Eriq King is a nightmare for UNC to have to face, and that's typically the kind of quarterback that they lose to. But then you look at time of possession, and Miami, North Carolina gets beat by teams that control the time of possession, and when the quarterback gets involved in that, Miami, they usually control the time of possession, but they don't own it. It's not a large enough differential. What I struggle with Miami is they truly only beat teams big when they get a lot of turnovers. Their biggest wins, they got 3 turnovers against Florida State, 2 turnovers against Pitt. They got 1 against NC State. North Carolina is not a team that's gonna give them the ball extra. Miami only has 16 turnovers for the season. 10 of them came in their 3 biggest wins. And if they don't have multiple turnovers, they typically don't win the game. And I don't think North Carolina is going to give it to them. But as you break all this stuff down, the offense against the defense, the time of possession, it just, I watched games, I watched Clemson, and it's just, so you put it all together and it comes down to the quarterback, right? I mean, at least that's how I sum it all up. And I struggle with De'Aaron King versus Howell, because I think Howell is going to play on Sundays and have a pretty successful career doing it. And some team is going to get lucky and get him in the second round. De'Aaron King is just this ridiculously talented college quarterback that can do crazy things. So all of that being said, it comes down to both teams. I walk away. I walk away from it because I could see either team winning. Miami needs the rankings. Miami needs to win and look good doing it. Well, do they win and look good doing it? I don't know if they're going to get those kind of turnovers from North Carolina, but they could also make North Carolina's defense look foolish. It's just Miami typically is in close games if they don't get those extra turnovers. The games that they got one turnover, just the couple that stand out to me, they played Virginia Tech and only got one turnover, and that was a very close game. They played North Carolina State, and it was a very close game. They only got one turnover, but they got it looks like they got turnovers or 3 takeaways against Florida State. They blew them out. This Duke game that Duke game accounts for 5 of their takeaways out of 16 this season. So again, it's a walk away for me. The challenge that we get into this time of year is that's a game that everybody wants to watch. That's a game that I want to watch. But just because I want to watch it, that doesn't mean it's a safe place to put money. So I would caution anybody that wants to invest in that on either side of the fence, because I can see either team winning and I could see either team blowing the other one out. That I could see that happening. So this is one you put it on your second or your third screen and keep the money games on. There's other games in college. And college at this point, we're 2 weeks left before the playoffs. So when you see the picks that I'm posting, I had to get a little weird, but I'm trying to find winners. I'm not trying to entertain myself by watching North Carolina against Miami. So Andrew, you asked about that game, and I'm glad you did. It's a walk away for me. And I think that you could win betting North Carolina in the spread. I think that you can win betting on Miami in the spread. I think you can win on money line on either side. You could take, I see it going all kinds of different directions, which makes it very dangerous. And Rob, what have you said before? The most powerful thing that you can do is just simply walk away. Don't play it. Don't give that game your money. I think that you're going to be a much happier person putting your money on Georgia Southern and taking the 5 points in the first half and getting paid in 1 hour of football.
No, I mean, I agree with you completely. There's a lot of on the market side, there's a lot of hedge fund managers that did really well this year, and they're not betting a lot of money right now. It's towards the end of the season for the stock market, end of the season for, sports betting stuff. And I mean, as you've said before, you would be up on, the Westgate stuff. So why ruin your percentages on some weird games that are going to happen at the end of the year just to get these normal win-loss percentages? So.
And it's, forget about the ego in the Westgate. I'm trying to make money, and I'm trying to give everybody some help in making money. So I don't benefit by none of us benefit by me throwing a North Carolina against Miami pick out there. And Andrew, I'm with you, man. That's a game that I'm interested in. And I spent more time on that game than any other game this week to walk away from it, because I started poking holes through my own philosophy. And at that point, I'd rather have FOMO than be pissed off. And that's kind of where I leave it. So, I don't really have much else, although I usually say that. And then Rob, you chime in with something interesting, and I go somewhere else. You want to talk about your ride a little bit, or anybody else out there have questions?
No, I mean, I had a good week and a half, over $2,000, but and it's been pretty consistent betting. But I also had some major winners as far as the Washington game, and so
Tell everybody where your biggest losses were. That's
my
valuable.
biggest loss was with the other night with Dallas.
Yeah, go a little bit further. That's not the answer I'm looking for.
Oh, the in-game stuff? Chasing?
No, it's the Sunday night. It's the Monday night. It's the going too far. It's the, it's the last game of the week. I got to get it in. I've won $2,000. Well, it'd be great to be 2,500. You are normally the most pissed off and frantically texting me during those games.
Well, no, I like to win. That's the whole thing, right?
What I'm saying is you stay away from those games. You stay away, or you go in with a quarter unit. If you're $100 better for the week, throw $25 on Monday night. I get it. Take the action. But Monday night, chances are you're going to lose. I don't care who you are. If you win it, great. You'll lose it next week. It just Monday night and Sunday night. I said it before. It is a dirty, dirty, dirty bitch, and it's just and selfishly, by the time we get to the Sunday night prime time, I'm exhausted. I've spent 14 hours on Saturday, another 10 on Sunday, and probably another 20 hours during the week breaking down tape and looking at stats and trying to figure out who's going to actually pay us. So, those are the riskiest bets of the week. I would recommend quarter unit on all of them. And, Rob, you've gone in full on some of those. And you got lucky on that Green Bay deal.
I was good.
Yeah. And by the way, this is important to say because this is live in moment happening. Georgia Tech is about to score a touchdown, which is going to put Georgia Tech ahead 7-3. Pitt was a 7.5 point favorite pregame. Now would be the time if you're investing on Pitt, if you want some points on the first half. Wait for the touchdown, jump on it.
They're already there. I had Pitt tonight, and I also had whoever's playing Southern Miss. I forget.
Well, you're about to get another really great entry point because right now it's Pitt first half +5 and game Pitt -3. What else we got, ladies and gentlemen?
I just want to talk about back on your North Carolina Miami game thing. I absolutely agree on walking away. I've too many times I have buddies that are, we started talking about North Carolina, and all season they've proven they can't handle a lot of the big time games. They've cost themselves. They played Virginia, who they were like 20-point favorites on, and it was like a double overtime or overtime game, and it was like 45-45. And just their defense is not there. And 100% agree with you. Like their quarterback, Miami, I would, if you were to bet at all, and I know I don't want to put that bad juju in the air, would be the Miami side. But again, Miami depends on that turnover, and they have to get that ball. So yeah, I agree on the walk away completely. It's like it's just too big of a game to worry about putting that money on it.
And this is the time of year where you have to really look at what do these college teams need. I mean, Miami needs it more. Miami needs it more because they're ranked number 10, and I think UNC has lost 3 games. So Miami with a win over a ranked opponent, that's a very good thing for them. Although I don't see 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 changing for Miami, but at the same time, we just said it. Walk away from that game. Be a fan. Put it on your iPad and just watch the game you got money on.
Yeah, I'm not even sure.
What else? Did we just lose him?
No, sorry. Yeah, I'm with you. I'd be the over/under as well, but I would just 100% stay away from that game.
Yep. Rob, where are you at? Yep.
What do you think about tonight? I guess for Rams Pats.
The Rams Pats, I would walk away from that too, only because it's Thursday night and those teams play each other tight. New England's looked really good the last couple weeks, so if I gun to my head, I would play New England. Gun to my head, I would play New England only because Belichick is smarter than Sean McVay, and Cam Newton is way better than Goff. But New England's been playing good defense. I really don't think that they're going to be smart enough to lose. And at this point, it doesn't do them any favors to tank or lose. But that's a lot of points. And New England typically does well as a dog. They haven't been dogs very often, and I think New England on the points is probably the right place to go on that. But again, it's Thursday night. I don't do it. I'm on Pitt tonight. I just, as we're sitting here talking, I jumped on Pitt -3.5 for the game. I just got a 4-point discount on an in-game, and this is where I'm playing. So,
gotcha. Appreciate it.
Yep.
What do you got on USC UCLA?
USC
is a 2.5 dog.
Yeah, UCLA is a hard one for me, and I the reason I say that is because UCLA can put up points, but they do it on the ground, and USC is very good at stopping that run attack. Although neither team has really had a true opponent to prove themselves against. What USC just did this past week, they scored all those points off of turnovers. They had 3 short fields to put those points up. They put 21 points on the board in scenarios where they had to go less than 40 yards in order to do it. But once the game settled in, they didn't score much in the second half. And if you can't put up points against UCLA, you'll have a variety of trouble. But again, UCLA has struggled in certain spots. So if I were to play that game, I don't even know if I would say take the over or the under. I think the over-under is sitting at 62. But USC's got some defense. I just don't know that they've seen a quarterback like UCLA. The UCLA quarterback, man, this guy is a freak. And he can present a lot of problems. But that was another game that I looked at because with college, I get it. That's another entertaining game. I would love to watch that, and I would love to have some skin in the game. But it became a walkaway because 3 points is just that's either team, and I could see either team winning. If it was 6 or 7 on one side, I would take the dog. But UCLA could score points, and this team is now 3 years in the making. And Chip Kelly is under no pressure at all. They have very low standards at UCLA for football. So Chip Kelly's going to be here for a few years to come. USC, there's playoff talk. So I don't really trust that coach in that spot. And I didn't get super deep into it just because the spread wasn't enough to make me really want to invest in it. I'd walk away from that one too. You look at the first half, I think UCLA is 14.5. I think USC is 15, I think is what I saw. So even there, that's 3 scores, and I don't really feel comfortable there. Last week, when we looked at UCLA, I felt super comfortable with, I think it was 12.5 in the first half, and we all got paid in 45 minutes worth of watching football. In fact, we got that twice, and I got another first half play, actually 2 first half plays this week that, those are great because you just get paid quick and you feel out the game from there. So UCLA, USC, it's a walk away. These games, college is starting to get very difficult to figure out games like that. And the Pac-12 is unpredictable. Washington, Oregon was the other one that I looked at because I really liked Washington with the 6 points. Because Oregon is just not the same team that they were a year ago. They're trying to recover from a quarterback that was making miracles happen. But Washington's a little bit of the same. They've lost a lot of their defense. They've lost a lot of their O-line that has produced a really great running game and translated into special teams. So I like Washington in that game. If you're going to play a later Pac-12 game, I would say take Washington and the 6 or 6.5 and leave the USC UCLA alone. All right.
No, bets are good, and I think we should just continue this next couple of weeks. But the reality is, I think some people are taking the gas off on some of these bets because they're so unpredictable, just like the market is. Man, the market's kind of weird. End of year is going pretty flat. So
yeah, but is a 7-4 week a reason to take the foot off the gas? I mean, 2 weeks ago was not so great, but that was a little blip on the radar. 7-4 week last week. I don't know.
Well, you're saying they're harder to get, right? They're harder to figure out. So
they're harder to get, but we're finding winners. And every week we're talking about how to find them, outside of the picks that I'm putting up. And I'm hoping that everybody here, that 7-4 series of picks that was put up last week, I'm hoping that everybody on this call found themselves another 5 to 10 winners. I mean, Rob, you found yourself at least another dozen winners, and so there's more on that. So you could probably find another 10 games to go 8-2 or 7-3 on. So there's some common sense in it, and there's just you just got to look for them. So
how about
it. So. If there's nothing else, I think we'll leave it there. There's another link that I have. If you haven't switched over, I mean, if you're only on the one page, the second link offers 100% Bitcoin bonus on deposit, and if you use my code, the bartender gets tipped again. So it's completely up to you, but Rob hit that second one today, and he's like, man, I should have put $1,000 in, because they'll tip you on your Bitcoin. They'll bonus you on the Bitcoin up to $1,000. So essentially, you put 1,000 in, they give you another 1,000. You have $2,000 in the account. You put 100 in, they give you another 100. You have 200 in, and by using my code, it sends me a bump for it too. So if you're on one and you want to do the other, it's like credit card jumping. You take advantage of the program and you get the hell out.
You gonna do any of these soccer calls or what?
I may. I don't know anything about it, but I will support you 100%. I don't know anything about soccer, but you do, and I'm happy to support. I just put so much into football. If I had to watch a soccer game, it's I would probably be sleeping on the couch. My wife is a wonderful lady, and she's very supportive of the football, but I don't know that she can give me up for a soccer game. So, but I will support.
No,
I'll support you and be on the calls, and come March time, I'll be ready for some basketball, and probably by then we'll be talking hockey and CFL outlook. CFL, their schedule came out. They're starting in June, and as crazy as it sounds, I'm better with the CFL than I am with the NFL.
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
Yeah, we got lucky the other day. We had that BVB call at +525, and if I had any more cash in there, I was throwing at least 100 on it. But yeah, that thing was at money line was +525. I was like, ha ha ha.
Yep. Well, you've been lighting it up with those. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, everybody, let's cash some tickets. I'm about to post the picks. I just need to give them another scrub, but I'm gonna post the picks for this week. And anybody, direct message me anytime you want. If there's a game that you want advice on, if there's something going on in game, there's a handful of you I've sent direct messages to about something juicy going on in games. I try and post a couple of those throughout the week too. So, have a good week, and let's cash some tickets.